Have you ever wondered why Japan and China, despite being two completely different countries with their own languages, traditions, and identities, often feel strangely familiar? Why their cultures sometimes mirror each other, and why so many of their customs, values, and ideas seem to overlap? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating stories in Asian history, a story of exchange, influence, imitation, rivalry, respect, and transformation. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why Japanese and Chinese people share so many similarities, even though their worlds developed in unique and beautiful ways. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Roots of a Shared History. When we talk about Japan and China, we're talking about two ancient civilizations whose stories stretch across thousands of years. What many people don't realize is that Japan's earliest cultural foundation was deeply shaped by China. While Japan was still forming its identity, ancient China was already a powerful, organized civilization with written laws, refined art, established religion, and a sophisticated government system. Naturally, Japan looked across the sea and saw a model worth learning from. Beginning around the 5th and 6th centuries, waves of Chinese influence reached Japan not through force, but through peaceful cultural exchange. Scholars, monks, and diplomats traveled between the two countries, carrying books, tools, art, technologies, and ideas. Japan didn't simply copy China, it studied China with genuine curiosity and admiration. Chinese writing, which became kanji, Confucian ethics, silk clothing, porcelain craftsmanship, architectural styles, and even the structure of government were introduced during this period. China also brought Buddhism to Japan, which would later evolve into uniquely Japanese forms such as Zen. Even Japan's early calendar system and many political institutions were modeled after Chinese examples. But what makes this relationship fascinating is what Japan did next. It customized everything it borrowed, reshaping Chinese ideas into something distinctly Japanese. This early exchange formed a cultural bridge that still influences both societies today. It explains why the two nations sometimes feel similar. Their roots began in the same place, even though their branches grew in different directions. Chapter 2. The Power of Writing. Language is one of the strongest forces that shapes a nation's identity, and one of the biggest similarities between Japan and China begins with writing. Before the 5th century, Japan had a spoken language but no written form. This made it difficult to record events, preserve stories, create laws, or communicate ideas across generations. Everything changed when Chinese characters known as Hanzi arrived in Japan. At first, Japanese scholars used these characters exactly as the Chinese did. They wrote Chinese-style poems, official documents, and religious texts. For the first time, Japan could keep written records, organize its government, and study philosophy and literature in a structured way. It was a cultural turning point. Over time, the Japanese adapted these characters to fit their own language. The result became kanji, which still carries the original Chinese meanings. Some pronunciations remain similar too, showing just how closely connected the two systems once were. But Japan didn't stop there. Because the Chinese characters couldn't perfectly express the flow of the Japanese language, Japan developed two additional writing systems, hiragana and katakana. These allowed Japan to write smoothly and naturally while still keeping the powerful visual tradition of kanji. This shared writing heritage created a permanent cultural bridge. Even today, when you open a Japanese book, read a sign, or look at traditional art, you can still see the fingerprints of ancient China woven into the heart of Japanese communication. Chapter 3. The Mirror of Religion and Philosophy. Another powerful reason Japan and China often feel culturally connected is because both societies were shaped by the same spiritual and philosophical traditions. Long before modern borders existed, ideas traveled freely across East Asia, and Japan absorbed many of China's most influential beliefs. Buddhism entered Japan through China and Korea around the 6th century. With it came temple architecture, sacred statues, chanting traditions, and teachings about meditation and compassion. While Japan eventually transformed these ideas, giving birth to Zen Buddhism, with its quiet gardens, simple rituals, and emphasis on mindfulness, the foundation came directly from China. Many of the beliefs and practices people see in Japanese temples today are echoes of this early Chinese influence. Confucianism. Confucian philosophy also took deep root in both nations. Its teachings focused on moral behavior, respect, responsibility, and social harmony. This is why values such as honoring elders, loyalty to family, discipline, and the importance of education are strong in both cultures. Even today, Confucian ideas shape everyday life. The polite way people speak, the habit of bowing, the preference to avoid conflict, and the belief that maintaining harmony is more important than winning an argument. Taoist thought. Taoism added another layer, influencing views about nature, balance, and the rhythms of life. Different countries, different identities, but at their core, both Japan and China grew from the same philosophical soil. Chapter 4: Similar Family Values. One of the strongest bonds between Japan and China lies in how both cultures view the family. For thousands of years, the family has been the heart of society in both nations, something to protect, honor, and prioritize above personal desires. And this sense of family goes far beyond the modern idea of parents and children. It stretches across generations, linking ancestors, grandparents, parents, and the younger generation into one continuous line of responsibility. In both cultures, parents are respected deeply, and grandparents are cherished as sources of wisdom and stability. Children grow up understanding that their actions reflect the family name, and maintaining that honor is considered a moral duty. Education is not just encouraged, it is expected. Success in school is seen as a way to contribute to the family's future, not merely personal achievement. This shared mindset creates similar family structures in Japan and China. Shared meals, collective decisions, and strong emotional bonds. Major life choices, such as marriage, career paths, and even where to live, are often discussed within the family, with everyone's well-being in mind. While many Western societies encourage independence at a young age, Japan and China see interdependence as a sign of strength and unity. Supporting one another, respecting elders, and putting family harmony first are seen as essential pillars of a good life. These shared family values form one of the deepest cultural similarities between the two nations, a connection that continues to shape daily life even today. Chapter 5: Food that Tells a Story. Food is one of the most powerful storytellers of culture, and when you compare Japanese and Chinese cuisine, you can immediately see how closely connected their culinary histories are. Both cultures grew around rice as a daily staple, noodles as a comforting classic, and chopsticks as an essential dining tool. Fresh ingredients, seasonal cooking, and a balanced approach to flavor and nutrition are celebrated on both sides. These similarities didn't appear by accident, they reflect centuries of shared history. Even Japan's beloved tea culture began in China. When Buddhist monks brought tea leaves and brewing techniques to Japan, they introduced what would eventually evolve into one of Japan's most iconic traditions: the calm, meditative tea ceremony. The roots were Chinese, but Japan transformed them into something deeply spiritual and uniquely its own. The same pattern appears in many foods. China introduced dumplings, and Japan recreated them as gyoza, lighter, crispier, and seasoned differently. Chinese noodles inspired Japanese ramen and udon, each with its own broth, texture, and personality. Even soy sauce traveled across the sea. China's version was rich and robust. Japan developed a lighter, sweeter style that suited Japanese taste. What makes this exchange so fascinating is the creativity involved. Japan didn't simply adopt Chinese dishes. Instead, it reinterpreted them, adding local flavors, techniques, and preferences. The result is two cuisines that share the same roots, yet express themselves in beautifully different ways, like siblings who grew up together but developed their own distinctive identities. Chapter 6: Architecture and Aesthetics. If you walk into an ancient Chinese temple and then step into a traditional Japanese shrine, you'll notice something immediately familiar. Both architectural styles reflect shared origins, shaped by early cultural exchanges that took place over many centuries. The similarities are striking. Gently curved roofs designed to protect against the elements, grand wooden beams crafted with remarkable precision, and structures arranged with an emphasis on symmetry and balance. These elements were not merely decorative, they expressed a worldview centered on harmony between humans and nature. Chinese architecture, rich in symbolism and bold colors, strongly influenced Japan in its early periods. The bright reds and shimmering golds you see in Japanese temples echo the grandeur of classical Chinese design. Even the use of natural wood tones, which creates warmth and a sense of grounding, reflects an appreciation for nature that both cultures share. Over time, Japan took these influences and shaped them into something uniquely Japanese. With the rise of Zen Buddhism, simplicity became a guiding principle. Japanese architecture gradually moved toward minimalism, clean lines, empty space, and subtle elegance. While Chinese buildings often celebrated fullness and color, Japanese structures embraced calmness and restraint. This evolution created two architectural traditions that feel related yet distinct. You can see the shared roots, but you can also see the different cultural journeys each country took. And it's this blend of influence and individuality that makes Japanese and Chinese aesthetics feel connected, yet beautifully unique. Chapter 7. The Way They See the World. One of the most meaningful similarities between Japan and China lies not in their food, language, or architecture, but in the way people in both cultures view the world. Their shared philosophy of life, shaped by centuries of Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist influence, created a mindset that feels remarkably aligned across both societies. In Japan and China, harmony is valued far more than conflict. People are taught from a young age that it is better to maintain peace than to win an argument. Group success is seen as more important than individual ambition, which is why teamwork and cooperation are deeply respected. Patience and long-term thinking guide many decisions, whether in business, family, or personal goals. Hard work is expected, and perseverance is seen as a virtue, not a burden. This shared worldview shows up everywhere. In the workplace, employees often stay committed to their teams and strive to avoid letting others down. In schools, students are encouraged to study diligently, not just for themselves, but for their families and communities. Even in everyday interactions, politeness, humility, and respect for rules create an atmosphere of order and stability. Both cultures believe that a good society begins with good character. Personal discipline, moral behavior, and self-control are seen as essential building blocks of harmony. This mindset, passed down across generations, connects Chinese and Japanese people more deeply than any physical resemblance ever could. It is a shared philosophical DNA that continues to shape their modern world. Chapter 8. Yet they remain unique. Here is where the Japan and China relationship becomes even more fascinating. For all the similarities the two nations share, Japan and China are also remarkably different. And these differences didn't happen by accident. They were the result of deliberate cultural adaptation. Japan embraced many Chinese ideas, but it never copied them outright. Instead, Japan transformed them, reshaping each influence into something that reflected its own spirit and identity. Take writing, for example. Chinese characters became Japanese kanji, but Japan didn't stop there. Over time, the Japanese created two additional writing systems, hiragana and katakana, allowing the language to express nuances and rhythms that kanji alone could not capture. The same story appears in religion. Chinese Buddhism entered Japan with its texts, rituals, and philosophy, but Japan evolved it into Zen, a deeply introspective, minimalist form of Buddhism known worldwide for its simplicity and stillness. Architecture followed a similar pattern. Chinese designs inspired Japan's earliest temples, but Japan soon leaned toward minimalism, emphasizing empty space, natural materials, and quiet beauty. While Chinese structures often celebrated grandeur, Japanese buildings focused on subtlety. Food is another example. Chinese cuisine sparked countless Japanese dishes, yet Japan developed lighter flavors, delicate presentations, and a gentler approach to seasoning. Through all these transformations, Japan proved something powerful. Influence does not erase identity. Japan took what it admired, adapted it with intention, and built one of the most refined, distinctive cultures the world has ever known. Chapter 9. Modern similarities you may not expect. Even in today's fast-changing world, Japan and China continue to share surprising similarities, proof that their ancient cultural foundations still echo through modern life. 1. A deep respect for education. Both societies place immense value on education. Academic achievement is seen not only as a personal goal, but also as a responsibility to one's family. In both countries, competition is intense, and parents invest heavily in their children's schooling, believing that success in the classroom leads to success in life. 2. Rapidly aging populations. Japan is well known for having one of the world's oldest populations, but China is now experiencing the same trend. Declining birth rates and longer life expectancy are reshaping both societies, influencing everything from healthcare systems to workforce dynamics. 3. Global economic powerhouses. Japan and China stand as giants in the global economy. Japan is home to brands like Toyota, Sony, and Nissan, icons of quality and innovation. China, meanwhile, leads through companies such as Huawei, Alibaba, and Lenovo. Together, they drive major technological and economic trends worldwide. Number 4. Tradition meets technology. Both cultures blend ancient traditions with cutting-edge modernity. It's common to see futuristic skyscrapers standing beside centuries-old temples, creating landscapes where the past and future coexist harmoniously. Number 5. Strong cultural pride. Both nations hold deep pride in their heritage. Festivals, customs, and historical achievements are celebrated passionately, reinforcing a sense of identity and continuity. These modern parallels show that Japan and China remain connected, not just through history, but through the way they navigate the present. Chapter 10. Shared values that change the world. When two civilizations share the same core values, those values don't stay within their borders. They shape how entire cultures behave, grow, and influence the world. This is exactly what happened with Japan and China. Both nations built their societies on a powerful set of guiding principles: stability, harmony, discipline, honor, respect, education, family, and social order. These values are more than traditions, they are the engines behind how both countries function. In Japan and China, stability is seen as the foundation of prosperity. People work hard to maintain order in their workplaces, communities, and families. Harmony is not just an ideal, but a daily goal, influencing how people speak, make decisions, and resolve conflicts. Discipline and honor guide personal behavior, creating societies where responsibility and reliability are deeply admired. Education stands at the center of life in both nations. It is viewed not only as a path to success, but as a moral duty, something that elevates families and strengthens communities. And woven through everything is the importance of family and social order, creating support systems that keep generations connected. These shared values haven't only shaped Japan and China individually, they've influenced the entire East Asian region. From Korea to Vietnam, you can see the echoes of ancient Chinese philosophy and the early Japanese adaptations of it. Together, these cultures built a worldview that has impacted global business, innovation, diplomacy, and cultural identity. Their shared values didn't just shape two nations, they helped shape the modern world. Chapter 11. A relationship filled with respect and competition. The relationship between China and Japan is one of the most complex and fascinating in world history. It has never been a simple, one-directional exchange. Instead, it is a story woven with admiration, rivalry, learning, and transformation, a long dance between two great civilizations. For centuries, China stood as the cultural giant of East Asia. Its writing system, philosophies, political structures, and religious traditions served as the blueprint for neighboring societies. Japan observed China from across the sea and saw not just a powerful nation, but a teacher. In those early centuries, Japan willingly took on the role of student, absorbing the knowledge and wisdom China offered. But history is always changing. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Japan underwent rapid modernization and industrial growth, transforming itself into one of the world's most advanced nations. For the first time, the student surpassed the teacher. This dramatic shift created new dynamics, moments of tension, competition, and pride. Yet beneath it all, there remained a deep cultural respect, forged over 1,000 years of shared influence. Today, that relationship continues to evolve. Japan and China compete in technology, economics, and global influence, yet both still inspire and learn from one another. They share ideas, watch each other's progress, and respond in ways that push both nations forward. It is a relationship defined not by imitation, but by mutual impact, a powerful exchange that has shaped East Asia for more than 2,000 years. Chapter 12. Why they feel similar today. To an outsider, Japan and China may appear to share a quiet, familiar rhythm. something subtle but unmistakable. And there's a good reason for that. Beneath the modern differences in language, lifestyle, and national identity, both cultures were built on the same ancient foundations. Their philosophies, family structures, and social values grew from ideas that have shaped East Asia for more than 2,000 years. Both nations embraced Confucian values that emphasized respect, responsibility, and harmony. Both developed writing systems rooted in the same early Chinese script. Both built societies where family plays a central role and where elders are honored with deep affection. Their relationship with nature, whether through gardens, seasonal festivals, or traditional beliefs, reflects a shared understanding that humans and the natural world must coexist in balance. Even their etiquette carries echoes of a common past. The polite speech, the bowed greeting, the careful attention to respect and order, these are cultural habits that grew from the same philosophical soil. Yet what makes this even more fascinating is how differently Japan and China express these shared foundations. Their cultures evolved along separate paths, shaped by geography, politics, and time. Today, one may feel refined and minimalist, while the other feels bold and expansive. One may lean toward quiet precision, while the other embraces vibrant energy. But deep underneath those differences, the roots are still connected, like two trees growing from the same soil, bending in different directions, yet forever linked beneath the surface. Chapter 13. The beauty of their differences. And this brings us to the final point, perhaps the most important one of all. Japan and China may share deep cultural roots, but what makes their story truly remarkable is how beautifully different they have become. From the same foundations, two completely distinct worlds emerged, each expressing its identity with pride, confidence, and creativity. Japan grew into a culture known for quiet elegance, precision, and minimalism. Its beauty lies in subtlety, an appreciation for empty space, gentle colors, and simple forms that speak louder than complexity ever could. It is a culture that celebrates restraint and refinement, where even everyday moments feel intentional and artful. China, on the other hand, blossomed into a civilization of scale and expression. Its culture is bold, vibrant, and full of movement. Festivals burst with color, history is vast and dramatic, and creativity often feels grand and dynamic. Where Japan whispers, China proclaims. Where Japan perfects smallness, China embraces greatness. Japan is like a tea ceremony, still, delicate, contemplative. China is like a festival, bright, energetic, and full of life. Japan is the art of less. China is the art of abundance. And it is precisely this contrast, born from shared origins but shaped by different journeys, that makes the relationship between Japan and China one of the most fascinating cultural stories in the world. Their similarities connect them, but their differences make them extraordinary. Conclusion. Japan and China may appear different at first glance. Different languages, different landscapes, different customs, different rhythms of everyday life. But when you look beneath the surface, past the food, the traditions, the clothing, and the modern cityscapes, you begin to see something deeper, a shared cultural heartbeat that traces back thousands of years. Their connection is not accidental. It is a bond formed through centuries of exchanged ideas, borrowed philosophies, shared values, and mutual transformation. A bond built not through conflict, but through curiosity. Not through force, but through inspiration. Ancient China offered its wisdom. Ancient Japan reshaped it with creativity. The result was two civilizations that reflect each other in surprising ways, yet shine with their own unique brilliance. They are not identical. They were never meant to be. They are not copies. They are not mirrors. They are two distinct cultures, shaped by similar roots, but carried forward by different histories, different landscapes, and different visions of life. And that is what makes them so fascinating. Japan and China feel similar because their cultural DNA began in the same soil, but they feel wonderfully distinct because each nation grew in its own direction, developing its own personality, its own voice, and its own identity. In the end, their story is not just about similarity, it's about how two great civilizations can share roots, grow apart, and still remain connected in spirit, tradition, and timeless cultural beauty.